GM. Really sorry, really quickly before this video starts. I realise I've edited it all. I've realised I need to explain two things really quickly before it begins. I'm going to be talking about two mechanics. One of them, God booking. I'm going to call it preaching God booking. It's where you use a book, like a Book of Darkness or anything, and you choose an option. And what it does is after you read the book in game, you lose 25% of your spec. The reason this is important will come involved later in the video. A lot of the time it's for ZCB specking or it's for Verzik with the staff. The other thing is humidify, this spell here, it literally just puts water in a vial. And then the other one, Venge and Spellbook swap. The reason these are important is because it has all the important spells you need for speedrunning. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the video. Appreciate you all. So one of these days I'm going to make a top guide on how to do absolutely everything we do, but this video is more for the people who don't care about learning how to do it. They just want to know what's going on in our videos, because I understand that it can be very confusing. So this video is an old 1323, it was my old PB, Hardmode Tob 5's run. It's no longer my PB, it's definitely not the best, it's definitely not the worst, it's a very average run, which is why I've taken it as an example. So you'll see before pretty much every room there'll be a lot of trading. This is because everyone needs 7 runes to have Spellbook Swap Freeze, Venge and Thralls. You see the tick counter on screen there. On the lower numbers, tick 5, the mages swap from Altor to Lightbearer. This means that on entry, as you can see now, when they do their Ralos, they'll immediately regen to 55. This is so that they gain a ZCB to push the 30s proc after 50s. So here, you'll see that I'm swapping my T-Bow and Salve Amulet. This is so that my range accuracy is higher than my melee. The amulet is needed for this. This is so that if Maiden hits me, it will drain my range stats rather than my melee stats. So here you see that I'm staying on tick with the other two. I did that by doing an accurate bow on entry, and then that put me on the same tick because an accurate bow is a 6 tick rather than a 5 tick as the other melee. So here you see me double dinsing. This is after I saved spec, but then I lost a tick. That's why I claw scratch there to get back on tick with everyone else. This is very important. Again, flicking the bow and salve. And yeah, the mage's ZCB to push the 30s proc, which is why this is seeming very fast. And the other melee, as you can see there, gained death charge after hammering at the start, which gave him an extra ZCB to speed up our skip. Our old cutoff used to be 118 for these maidens, and so the second we get that, we know we're okay. Dodging blood is very important. Just getting the basics right, making sure we're not missing any ticks or many ticks, getting the specs off, everything's all good. We're then dropping runes to get our necks back. These necks are going to be used that we need 3 at Sotseg and then the rest at Bloat. If you have any questions about Maiden, please do let me know. But anyway, now on to the easiest and the most difficult rune to explain. Basically, in Bloat, we use Humidify to stall all the damage of the flies behind one hit splat. And because the flies don't hit over 16, you can never go to 0 HP because your P-neck procs at 20. Basically, the idea is that Humidify is a 3-tick stall. So on tick 1, you hit and Humidify, then you have 3 ticks of stalled damage. Tick 4, your P-neck procs, and tick 5, you gain immunity, Scythe, and re-equip a P-neck and Humidify again. And this basically grants you immunity all the way around, so long as you're tick perfect, and grants you full damage on your. It means that you can stand on top of each other and only use 1 P-neck for each scythe swing, which is massive. Because if you were to do the old traditional method, you'd have to use way more P-necks than we do. The only issue is obviously you have mages. So mages would normally, traditionally, be on the ancient spellbook. However, they do spellbook swap freezing, which means that they can also spellbook swap at Bloat. So they don't have vials, and they don't use Humidify the same way we do. They use their spellbook swaps, as I'm sure if you've watched any duo content, to do the exact same thing, because that's also a 3-tick stall. It works the exact same, it's just harder to do, and you need more runes for it. But it saves the vial, which is the perk. Anyway, now as you can see, we're all double clawing and we get Bloat. This was the old record time. Unfortunately, I missed a side swing and so did my teammate, so this was still tied old record. We actually beat it later on in time. And now we're on to the fabled Nilo, my absolute favourite room, but I'm sure a very intimidating one for those of you who don't do it that often. The idea here with Nilo, in the simplest form, is that every single player has a set role. They have a set rotation, and it's very much learnt and ingrained into our brains. Obviously, if stuff goes wrong, there's deviation from the norm, and there's prioritization that goes on. For example, just then you saw that I hit the right one instead of the left one of the melees. This is because I am the west melee, or the right side of the room, and the other person is the east, and I knew that he was coming to that side, so I prioritised the right hand side one, so that we didn't double up on it. The basic idea, the basic premise of Nilos is that the fewer people that double up on a Nilo, the better, because if you overcommit to an 8 HP thing, or I guess 11 in this instance, is kind of a bad thing. The only time it's good is like here with the major doubling up, because that big needs to die. Because if that dies first tick, it means that the melee gets to hit one of the small Nilos that splits from it before hitting its doubles. The basic idea is to look for splits, make sure you're hitting your rotation, and making sure the room's clean. In hard mode, this is a lot easier to do because the room cap, so the amount of Nilos that can be in the room, is higher than in normals, which is quite unknown by a lot of people. So it means you can be riskier with the things you kill, you can be riskier with pre-cap. So the other idea is that on wave 10 and on wave 20, the cap of Nilos allowed in the room changes. An example of that is right now. So you see that 19 major just killed, I stood one tile into the room. The reason that's important is you're about to see now the split S21. So those two melees that just spawned happened a tick after the wave 20 spawn. The reason this is important is because the tick before there was a room cap check done by the game. If I'd killed that 19 big one tick sooner, so if I'd stood one tile closer, those two spawns would have happened on the room check. Which means that if the room check was over the limit, which is higher in hard mode anyway, but 12 in normal, then the room would have stalled, and very likely it would have caused a stall in normals. Anyway, now I'm just cleaning up my rotation, making sure that all these bigs die as soon as possible. You want to kill bigs in late waves as soon as possible, unlike the earlier waves. The reason why is because they split early, they split soon. It means that people can get their cleanups done earlier. The stalls in the room will usually happen at around 28 to 30. Once this big guy spawns, I use my claw spec and I'm going to death charge. The reason for this is so that I gain a ZCB for the boss. You only need one person BGSing, they only need to hit 50 for it to be 0 defense, and so the rest of the team will be using ZCB. Obviously I don't have many range switches, but because it's 0 defense, it should hit regardless. Again, just cleaning up the room, looking for a 302, but I believe we got a 304 in this recording. Obviously, I have no real gear switches, and my event is very, very barren and bare, so we're just gonna... I forgot to death charge. Well, that's a misplay from me. But yeah, the idea is that instead of clawing, I would normally ZCB. But yeah, we're all gonna sit in two different tiles. The reason being is that if you share damage with one person, it's okay, and it saves everyone running all around the room and dragging the boss. Because if you drag the boss as it dies, or badly in hard mode, it causes either issues in hard mode, or if you drag it as it dies, it means that your room time will go even longer. And so you see here, we're just going to clean up the room, making sure our switches are clean, and just killing the boss. Armor takeoffs where applicable, making sure we're just venging, and getting ready for the boss to die. Also, sorry, I should clear up that by dragging and the room time lasting longer, it's because the death animation of the boss is longer if he's walking. It actually lasts an extra tick or two, I believe. I can't actually remember which one, but it's the same idea in the fight caves, where if you're doing fight cave speedrunning, you want to stand still as things die. You don't want things moving. So I get asked a lot, why do you have that number above your head? The reason why is here. So you see that there's two numbers that are synced up. One is the in-room time for Sotus Egg. You see where it flashes screen, that will become important later. The other is my number, that's my own visual metronome. And I sync them because the Sotus Egg in-room timer goes away during the room and only comes back during the maze. And it's quite important. So here, you see that Horse has preached. Again, this is so that he can get a ZCB at the start and also have a hammer for P3. We start on a certain tick because we're trying to predict when the maze will happen. There's graphs, there's been loads and loads of stuff made predicting the most predictable P1. You basically want P1 to end on a certain tick so that you can immediately run the maze at a certain time. And if you get over that maze, it's a bad run. If you get under, you are fucking swinging. Anyway, so you see the number. On number 3 is when we move. So we didn't get it here. We were a little bit slow. So on 3, we click forward, and then we go. I missed my red X. On tick 1, we're going to humidify. This is a half soak skip. It's also used in duo skips. Because the maze on the inside of the maze in hard mode doesn't share between teammates, it's only personal damage. It allows for us to do duo skips individually. Anyway, we're just doing our own thing, grabbing some food. We're just killing. So on the second maze, we're going to be doing a full skip, which I'm sure if you've watched speeds before, you will have seen. So I'm ticking it here just in case something happens. Putting a neck on. On 3 we go. Unfortunately, we didn't get a good spawn on either of them. Tick 1 we humidify. Tick 1 we do spellbook swap. I did it a tick later here just to guarantee immunity, and because I had higher HP. Right here, just keep staying alive. Making sure we get Vengeance off. Make sure we get Specs off. It's very important we hit 2 hammers on each phase because that will bring Soap down to 100 defense, which is the lowest he can be brought down to. Anyway, as Soap dies here, we have quite a slow room, unfortunately, but a room nonetheless. It was quite well played by all of us. It was just a bad P1 and just some bad specs. It was just a bit slow. If you have any questions, let me know. So nothing new here, really. We're just going to preach, same as the other rooms. The idea is you get 2 ZCBs, and you just want a 0 defense it off the bat. Exhumes are done so that everyone has a corner and 1 person floats, so you never leave your corner. I'm sure you'll see instances here where it works. So yeah, right here, right off the bat. As soon as a new exhumes comes up, the guy in the corner takes over from Horse, and Horse can move. And we're just going to do that. You never leave your corner. You only help the person who's filling, in this instance Horse. So you see there, he goes to the next one, and then when the next one spawns, Horse moves, and the guy takes over. He just does that all the way around. This only really works in 5s, it doesn't work in any other scale, but good to know if you ever run into 5s, or if you're ever wondering why we're so calm, cool, and collected. Anyway, we're just going to do P1 like normal, and then pray that we hit specs. So you see here that I don't have a hammer. I'm going to be doing 2 BGS specs. Which will put me on a different tick to everyone else, because everyone else should only be doing 1 spec and either having a ZCB or having a claw. The other idea of this is that we don't all want to be on the same tick for post screech, because if someone's trying to sink or whatever, we don't want to risk either deaths or losing ticks. And it has happened before. We have had it where we're all on the same tick and people just die one by one, because whoever has PID is where Zarpus turns to. So you see here, I do Scythe, Beej, and then another Beej, and we get it to 0. Which is absolutely fantastic. That's all we could ever ask for, and that means we've gained the 2 ZCBs. So you see 1 goes off there. That's so we can gain a Chally later on. The other ZCB I believe is waiting. Just staying in a 5-tick cycle here. Nothing too special. Someone asked about my tile markers before. They're for the Hardmode 2 Scythe achievement. A lot of people opt to blowpipe it. We as boosters choose to Scythe it. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more consistent. I'll have guides of that coming out very, 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 very soon. I've already got it made actually. Just uploading this video first. Anyway, staying in cycle, we're counting ticks. I'll make a guide on how to count the tick you're on at Zarpus, so that you never, ever, ever risk scything yourself out, and you always know how many hits you can have. Or at least the way that I count, which I don't think is the most ordinary way to do it. But yeah, guide of that coming very, very soon. I believe he screeches here. Yep. And then, as we know with hard mode, we just AFK and win. And yeah, as we saw that, I was on a different tick to everyone else. Everyone else was on the same tick. Hence why I AFK'd. There comes the other ZCB. And it's a half-decent Zarpus from memory. A 0 defense is always going to be pretty consistent at Zarpus. It's pretty rare to get a lot of deviation here. Any questions? Let me know. And now we're on to the fabled Verzik. Verzik Vita. I do love her and hate her. As per usual, we've got the tick counters. The rolls here, it's all made on a chart. If you want the chart, I'll leave it in the description to have a look. The idea here is my roll, on tick 11.4, I spec transfer, and there's another person that spec transfers as well. This saves us having to bring in as many god books, because obviously I don't have one, so I can't preach without one. And yeah, so I'm going to be spec transferring there, and there's another player who also spec transfers a different player. This means that 2 people spec 5 times, and 1 person specs 3 times. And it leads to just as fast a P1 as if we all had god books. It makes no difference at all. And it also saves having to drop the staff loads of times, because we choose to 4-tick spec instead of 5. It basically means you only have 1 tick of clearance to equip staff, use spec, and click the boss. Here we have a thing called Boak, so it means that we all can DD or death dot. The benefit of this is that we'd lose no ticks on crabs. It also means that you know you're always safe and never have to AFK. Here, you'll see that I'm opting to not blow pipe the crab. This is actually on purpose because one player in the team needs death charge. It's all part of the specs. The reason being is because, as you'll see very, very soon, red crabs we want to get in one go. If the red crabs go in and we have a second set of them, that means that it's a bad Verzik. Especially in fives. So you see here, I've been camping a light bearer the whole time to 50% spec. That is on purpose. That's so I gain a claw just to cement that we get the one down crabs, and that is also why the person is death charged, is so they can also get their spec back for claws. So you see here, I'm putting myself on tick. You're going to see us all stay at the boss here. The reason being is because it all puts us on the same tick for the skip as well. It means that we're hitting on the last available tick. So here, going to see me claw. And this is what tick fixes indirectly. And then here is the final tick, and we get it. And you see the crabs went in but didn't heal. That's because we hit on the last available tick. So here, spellbook swapping, spawn a new thrall. I have the boss and actually go under a little bit early here from memory. A little bit late even. But yeah, anyway, you'll see I'm about to claw scratch. This is to put me on tick with everyone else. It means I don't lose a scythe. And you see my visual metronome once again, instead of counting to...
I don't think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't that clean.
P2.
And no, that was a little okay.
Tick here from memory. Yep, right there. I click back a tick late, and I also don't fix it with a claw scratch, so I just lose a scythe because of losing that one tick, which is a bad play from me. But in fives, the deviation of one scythe isn't too huge. Here we're doing webs like normal. Thankfully, we didn't proc before webs, which has only ever happened to us once, actually. But very, very dangerous if we do, because it means we're healing and stuff like that. Anyway, just doing Verzik like normal. If any of you know how to pog tank out of webs, instead of doing the claw scratch, we just immediately scythe, because we won't get claws back because we use them for the red skip. So you'll see here how we wait an extra tick and then run under a tick early. This is just so we can scythe all the way around. I chance a hit here, which is absolutely fine. It doesn't make any difference on the time, and that is our 13:23. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer any of them. I'll leave you with the live comm for the rest of this.